She hides with her twins until the billionaire CEO moved in, unknowingly, next to his twins. What would you do if the man who broke your heart and abandoned you while pregnant suddenly moved in next door and had no idea he was the father of your children? Ava Sinclair froze at her kitchen window, coffee mug suspended midair as she watched the sleek black SUV pull into the neighboring estate's driveway. The driver's door opened, and there he was, Riley James, stepping out in casual clothes that couldn't disguise the powerful presence she remembered all too well. Just yards away, her 8-year-old twin boys, Jordan and Casey, were building an elaborate fort in their front yard, completely unaware that their father had just arrived in their lives. Have you ever kept a secret to protect someone you love? Have you ever had to face your past when you least expected it? Today's story will take you through one mother's impossible choice, a father's second chance, and the healing power of forgiveness that can transform broken promises into something stronger than ever before. If you skip subscribing now, you'll miss every future story that could change how you see love, family, and second chances. Don't let algorithm bury this channel. Hit that subscribe button right now, or you'll regret it when you can't find us again. And if you're already subscribed but haven't liked or commented, what are you waiting for? The algorithm punishes silence. Like this video, drop a comment about second chances and share it with someone who needs to hear this. If you refuse to subscribe, at least tell us why in the comments. We're listening. Ava Sinclair had built a life of quiet resilience in Harborview. At 34, she'd mastered the delicate balance of single motherhood, freelance graphic design work, and maintaining the modest cottage that had become their sanctuary. The morning light filtered through lace curtains, illuminating the organized chaos of their breakfast table, cereal bowls, sketchbooks, and the perpetual stack of permission slips that seemed to multiply overnight. Jordan, don't forget your science project. Casey, please tell me you packed your gym clothes this time, Ava said, tucking a strand of chestnut hair behind her ear as she moved between the kitchen and living room with practiced efficiency. Jordan looked up from his detailed architectural sketch, his serious green eyes narrowing in concentration. Mom, do you think this support beam is structurally sound? He pointed to his drawing with the methodical precision that had defined him since toddlerhood. Before Ava could answer, Casey burst into the room, a whirlwind of energy and half-tied shoelaces. Mom! I built a working drawbridge for our Lego castle. Come see before school. He grabbed her hand, pulling her toward his latest creation, an elaborate medieval fortress complete with a moat and functioning gate system. The twins were identical in appearance but opposite in temperament. Jordan was thoughtful, analytical, spending hours perfecting his drawings and designs. Casey was all impulse and innovation, building and creating with intuitive brilliance. Both had inherited their father's sharp green eyes, dark hair, and the distinctive dimple on their left cheek when they smiled. Their father. The thought still caused a dull ache in Ava's chest, even after all these years. 9 years ago, San Francisco had been a different world. Ava had been 25, ambitious, and working for a prestigious design firm when she attended the tech conference that would change her life. Riley James had been the keynote speaker, charismatic, brilliant, discussing disruptive innovation with a passion that electrified the room. The future belongs to those willing to break patterns, he'd said, his voice commanding attention from every corner. To those brave enough to reimagine what's possible. Their eyes had met across the crowded reception afterward. His smile had been confident, almost predatory, but there was something vulnerable in those green eyes that drew her in despite her better judgment. What followed was 6 months of rooftop dinners overlooking the bay, whispered promises in luxury hotel rooms, and the intoxicating feeling of being chosen by someone who could have anyone. Riley James was already making his mark in the tech world, his startup gaining momentum and investor attention. Ava had fallen hard and fast, believing they were building something real. Then came the Singapore opportunity, a massive investment deal that would catapult his company into the international market. It required immediate relocation, at least 18 months overseas. It's the chance of a lifetime, he'd told her, eyes bright with ambition. We'll figure it out. Long distance for a while, then maybe you can join me once things stabilize. Ava had nodded, swallowing her disappointment. She'd understood ambition, respected it even. What she hadn't expected was the pregnancy test that turned positive the week before his departure. She'd called him, hands shaking, heart racing. "Riley, I need to talk to you. It's important." His voice had been distracted, the sound of packing and business calls in the background. "Can it wait? I'm drowning in preparations here." "No, it can't. I'm pregnant." The silence had stretched between them, heavy and suffocating. When he finally spoke, his voice had been cold, unrecognizable. "This isn't what I signed up for, Ava. I can't do this right now. My 5-year plan doesn't include children. You know that. Riley, please. I'm sorry, I can't." The call had ended. Ava had tried again the next day and the day after. Voicemails, texts, emails, all met with silence. By the time his flight departed for Singapore, she'd understood with painful clarity. Riley James had chosen his ambition over her and their unborn child. 2 weeks later, she'd packed her life into her sedan and left San Francisco behind, eventually finding Harborview, a quiet coastal town where no one knew her name or her story. Where she could raise her children, as she later discovered, in peace, away from the painful reminder of rejection. For 8 years, she'd built a life here. Her freelance design business had grown steadily, allowing her to work from home and be present for every milestone in her sons' lives. The cottage, once a temporary refuge, had become home, its weathered blue exterior and creaking porch steps as familiar as her own heartbeat. Until yesterday's email from the property management company. "We're writing to inform you that the neighboring estate has been sold. The new owner will be taking residence this week." Curious, she'd checked the local newspaper's website, and there it was, the headline that had stolen her breath. "Tech billionaire Riley James purchases Harborview estate, seeks quieter life after health scare." The article detailed how Riley, following a near-fatal heart attack at 42, was stepping back from his role as CEO of Nexus Industries to retreat from city life and reconnect with what matters. There was a quote about reassessing priorities and seeking meaning beyond success. Ava had stared at his photograph, older now, a touch of silver at his temples, but unmistakably the same man who had walked away 9 years ago. The same man who had never known he had sons. Sons who were now playing just yards away from where he would live. Now, standing at her kitchen window, watching his arrival, the questions that had kept her awake all night returned with suffocating intensity. Should she hide the boys when he was around? Should she move away entirely? Did she owe him the truth after 9 years of silence? She watched as Riley paused, taking in the ocean view, breathing deeply as if testing the salt air. He looked different, not just older, but somehow less armored. The power suits she remembered had been replaced by casual jeans and a simple button-down. There was a stillness to him she didn't recognize. But what Ava couldn't possibly know was that fate had brought them together for a reason far greater than either of them could imagine. And the truth would shatter everything both of them believed about that night 9 years ago. If you've ever made a choice you thought was right but feared it might haunt you, this story will hit hard. Don't watch this alone without subscribing. You'll want every update we post. If you're already subscribed, smash that like button now or the algorithm won't show you part 2. Non-subscribers, tell us in the comments why you're hesitating. What's stopping you? We genuinely want to know. Riley James stood motionless in his new driveway, letting the coastal breeze wash over him. His cardiologist's words echoed in his mind. "Your heart attack was a warning, Mr. James. Your body is telling you to slow down. Listen to it, or the next one will be your last." 3 months of recovery had forced him to reevaluate everything. The empire he'd built, the wealth he'd accumulated, the power he'd wielded. None of it had mattered when he was lying on that cold office floor, gasping for breath, certain he was dying alone. He'd stepped back from Nexus Industries, appointing a trusted COO as acting CEO while he maintained only advisory board status. He'd sold his penthouse in San Francisco, his vacation properties in Aspen and Maui. He'd sought somewhere quiet, somewhere he could heal, and perhaps find whatever was missing in the life he'd built. Harborview had seemed perfect, remote enough for privacy, but with the amenities he required. The estate agent had mentioned a small cottage on the adjacent property, describing the occupants as a quiet single mother and her children. Riley had barely registered the information, focused instead on the property's privacy and ocean access. Now, as he turned to survey his new surroundings, his gaze fell on the modest blue cottage next door and the woman standing in its doorway. Time stopped. Ava Sinclair. Older, more mature, but unmistakably the woman who had disappeared from his life 9 years ago without explanation. But then he noticed the two identical boys playing in the yard. Dark hair, sharp green eyes, the same dimple on their left cheek when they smiled. His dimple. The realization hit him with physical force, nearly buckling his knees. These were his sons. His children. The ones he'd never known existed. Without conscious thought, he found himself walking toward the cottage, drawn by a gravitational pull he couldn't resist. Ava's face drained of color as she stepped protectively onto the porch, positioning herself between him and the boys. "Riley," she said, her voice barely audible. "Ava." His own voice sounded foreign to his ears. I didn't know you lived here." She nodded stiffly, eyes darting between him and the twins, who had paused their play to watch the stranger approaching their mother. 8 years. No, 9 years. And you never thought to tell me I had sons?" The words escaped before he could temper them, raw with shock and accusation. Ava's posture stiffened, her eyes flashing with protective fury. "I tried. You made it crystal clear that fatherhood wasn't compatible with your 5-year plan, Riley. What are you talking about? You disappeared. You never gave me a chance." "Mom?" One of the boys had approached, looking between them with curious eyes. "Who is this?" Ava's expression softened immediately as she turned to her son. "Jordan, this is an old friend. Mr. James. He's moving into the big house next door." Jordan studied Riley with analytical precision, his gaze so familiar it was like looking in a mirror. "You look like us," he said simply. The second boy bounded up, energy radiating from every movement. "Do you have kids?" he asked with disarming directness. Riley's throat tightened painfully. I hope to get to know some soon." The boys exchanged a look, some silent twin communication, before the energetic one shrugged. "I'm Casey. That's Jordan. We're 8. Do you like Legos? I built a castle with a working drawbridge." "Casey," Ava interjected gently, "Mr. James probably has a lot of unpacking to do. Why don't you boys finish your fort while I talk to him for a minute?" The twins retreated reluctantly, casting curious glances over their shoulders. When they were out of earshot, Riley turned to Ava, his voice low and urgent. "What happened? I was told you terminated the pregnancy." Ava's eyes widened in genuine shock. "What? Who told you that?" "Marcus, your coworker. I called your office when you stopped answering my calls. He said you'd quit suddenly, and when I pressed him, he said you'd taken care of the situation and wanted a fresh start." Ava's hand flew to her mouth. "Marcus never liked you. He must have—" "I never told him anything. I left you multiple voicemails telling you I was keeping the baby. When you never responded, I assumed you didn't care." In that moment, standing face to face after 9 years, they realized the cruelest trick of all. Not fate, not betrayal, but miscommunication that cost them nearly a decade of their sons' lives. Can I meet them? Just as the new property owner, please." Riley's voice broke on the last word, a vulnerability he hadn't shown in years. Ava's eyes hardened, her protective instinct visible in every line of her body. "If you disappoint them, if you walk away again, even once, I will take them so far away all your money and private investigators won't help you find us. Do you understand me?" He nodded solemnly. "I understand." The introduction was brief, casual. "Boys, this is Mr. James, the new neighbor." But Riley felt anything but casual as he shook the small hands of his sons. Jordan's grip was firm, assessing, while Casey's handshake turned into an enthusiastic tour of their half-built fort. "We're making a lookout tower here," Casey explained, pointing to a precarious stack of branches. "Jordan designed it. He designs everything. I'm the builder." "It's not structurally sound yet," Jordan added seriously. "The crossbeams need reinforcement." Riley nodded, fighting the emotion threatening to overwhelm him. "That's very impressive engineering for your age." Jordan studied him again, then whispered something to Casey, who nodded vigorously. "Do you want to help?" Casey asked. "We need someone tall to hold the roof while we secure the supports." For the next 30 minutes, Riley James, tech billionaire, industry disruptor, the man whose time was billed at thousands per hour, held branches in place while his sons, who didn't yet know they were his sons, built their fort. Every laugh, every serious instruction from Jordan, every exuberant suggestion from Casey. Each moment carved itself into his memory with painful sweetness. When Ava finally called the boys in for dinner, Riley reluctantly said goodbye, agreeing to her terse suggestion that they talk after the boys went to school tomorrow. That night, in his empty mansion filled with unpacked boxes, Riley sat on his balcony overlooking the ocean, a glass of scotch untouched beside him. 9 years. He had sons, twin sons, who had lived and grown for 9 years without him. Because of a misunderstanding. Because of a lie. Because he hadn't tried harder to find Ava when she disappeared. He thought of all he'd missed: first words, first steps, first days of school, birthdays and Christmases and ordinary Tuesdays. The thought was physically painful, a tightness in his chest that reminded him of his heart attack. But they were here now. By some miracle or cosmic joke, they were living next door. He had a second chance he didn't deserve, and he silently vowed not to waste it. The choices we make in moments of fear can shape lives and destroy them for years. If you've ever had to make a decision to protect someone you love, drop it in the comments right now. And if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, you're gambling that YouTube will show you the next part of this story. Spoiler, it won't. Subscribe now, like this video, and share it before you lose this channel forever. Already subscribed? Comment and share, or you're letting this message die here. The next morning, after watching the twins board their school bus from his kitchen window, Riley walked the short path to Ava's cottage. She answered his knock with guarded eyes, but gestured him inside. The cottage interior was warm and lived in, children's artwork adorning the refrigerator, well-worn furniture arranged for conversation rather than show, bookshelves overflowing with a mix of design references and children's literature. It was everything his sterile mansions had never been: a home. Ava placed a mug of coffee and a plate of homemade muffins on the kitchen table. "Sit," she said, not unkindly. "We have a lot to talk about." They sat across from each other, truly talking for the first time in 9 years. "I had a heart attack 3 months ago," Riley began, deciding honesty was the only path forward. "Collapsed in the middle of a board meeting. 42 years old, and they had to restart my heart twice in the ambulance." Ava's expression softened slightly. "I read about it in the article. I'm sorry that happened to you." Riley shook his head. "Don't be. It was the wake-up call I needed. I've stepped back from Nexus Industries. I'm just an advisor now. The heart attack made me realize I'd built an empire at the expense of everything else. Wealth, success, power. It all meant nothing when I was lying on that floor thinking I was going to die alone." Ava studied him over the rim of her coffee mug. "People don't change overnight, Riley, especially not people like you. You're right. But losing everything, nearly dying, it puts things in perspective. I don't want to die a stranger to my own sons." Riley's voice cracked slightly on the last word. "I know I have no right to ask anything of you, but I'm asking anyway. Let me know them." Ava set her mug down carefully. "They're incredible children, Riley. Jordan is brilliant. He thinks in systems and structures, sees patterns everywhere. Casey is pure creativity and energy. He builds what Jordan designs. They balance each other perfectly." Her eyes grew distant. "The pregnancy was difficult. Bed rest for the last trimester. I was alone, working remotely until I couldn't anymore. They were born 6 weeks early. Riley flinched visibly. I should have been there. Yes, you should have. Her voice was matter-of-fact, not accusatory. But you weren't. And we survived. We thrived, actually. I want to be part of their lives now, Ava. Not to disrupt what you've built, but to add to it. To give them what I can, not just financially, but myself. My time? My presence? Ava was quiet for a long moment. We need to establish some ground rules. Supervised visits at first. No promises you can't keep. Complete transparency with the boys when the time is right. Riley nodded eagerly. Anything, whatever you think is best. And Riley? Her eyes met his directly. If this is some midlife crisis thing, some temporary phase because you had a health scare, walk away now. Because once they know who you are, once they let you in, I won't let you break their hearts. I won't, he promised. This isn't temporary, Ava. This is the rest of my life. What neither of them could predict was how quickly structured visits would crumble under the weight of a father's love he didn't know he was capable of, and a connection neither of them had truly let go. As Riley walked back toward the main estate, Ava watched from her porch, wondering if she just made the biggest mistake of her life, or gave her sons the father they deserved. The following weeks unfolded in a careful dance of boundaries and tentative trust. Riley became a regular presence at the cottage, initially joining them for dinner twice a week, then helping with homework, then weekend activities. Jordan approached their new neighbor with methodical curiosity, testing him with increasingly complex questions about architecture, business, and occasionally, with disarming directness, why people make bad choices. Sometimes, Riley had answered carefully, people make choices based on what they think they want, not what they actually need. And sometimes they're just afraid. Afraid of what? Jordan had pressed. Of failing. Of not being enough. Of becoming someone they don't want to be. Jordan had nodded thoughtfully, as if filing this information away for future reference. Casey's approach was more physical, challenging Riley to bike races through the property trails, teaching him the complex rules of games he'd invented, showing off his latest Lego engineering feats with infectious enthusiasm. You let me win that race, Casey accused one afternoon, eyes narrowing suspiciously. Riley laughed. Only the first one. You legitimately beat me on the second. Good, Casey had declared, because winning doesn't count if it's not real. Ava watched these interactions from doorways and kitchen windows, glimpsing a version of Riley she never knew existed, or perhaps one buried under ambition 9 years ago. He was patient, attentive, fully present in a way she wouldn't have believed possible from the driven young entrepreneur she'd known. Family isn't just about blood, it's about showing up. And if this story is touching your heart, but you still haven't subscribed, you're choosing to miss out on every story we share about redemption, growth, and real love. Hit that subscribe button now. Don't let fear of commitment keep you from this community. Already here? Like, comment, and share this with someone who needs hope. If you won't subscribe, tell us why in the comments. What's holding you back? One evening, after the boys had gone to bed, Riley and Ava sat on her porch swing, the rhythmic creaking a counterpoint to the distant ocean waves. My father was never present, Riley said quietly, breaking a comfortable silence. Physically there sometimes, but mentally always at work. Building his real estate empire was everything to him. I swore I'd never be like that. Ava turned to look at him, surprised by the voluntary disclosure. When you told me you were pregnant, he continued, I panicked. I was terrified of becoming him. So I became him anyway, just in a different way. I built my own empire, and I lost everything that mattered in the process. You can't undo the past, Ava said softly, but you can choose differently now. Riley nodded, then asked the question that had been haunting him. When can we tell them the truth? The question hung between them, heavy with implications. Ava had been considering it herself, watching the natural bond forming between Riley and the twins, seeing how they gravitated toward him, how they lit up when he arrived. Soon, she finally said. They're already asking questions. They know something's different about you. They decided on a picnic by the pond on Riley's property. Neutral ground, peaceful, a place where difficult conversations might be softened by natural beauty. The day arrived with perfect weather. Warm sunshine, gentle breeze, the pond's surface rippling with occasional fish movement. Riley had prepared everything meticulously. A checkered blanket spread under a sprawling oak, a picnic basket filled with the boys' favorite foods, even a backup plan of fishing gear if things became too emotionally intense. After they'd eaten, Ava caught Riley's eye and nodded slightly. It was time. "Jordan, Casey," she began, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Mr. James isn't just our neighbor. He's your father." Silence descended. Jordan's analytical mind visibly raced behind his thoughtful eyes. Casey's face flickered between confusion, hurt, and curiosity. "Why didn't you tell us before?" Jordan asked quietly, the question directed at both adults. Riley leaned forward, meeting his son's gaze directly. "Because I didn't know. Your mom and we lost touch. I made mistakes, but now that I know, I want to be here, if you'll let me." Casey, always the one to break tension with unexpected directness, looked at Riley skeptically. "If you're really our dad? Do you know how to fish?" Riley laughed, a real, unguarded laugh that seemed to surprise even him. "No, but I'd love for you to teach me." In that moment, under the afternoon sun by the quiet pond, a family didn't just reunite. It was born for the very first time. The weeks that followed were a complex adjustment period for everyone. Jordan processed the revelation analytically, asking questions, testing boundaries, even researching absent parent psychology on the library computer. Casey tested Riley emotionally, acting out, then watching for his reaction, learning to trust through action, not words. Riley showed them the newly renovated main house, including a dedicated project room stocked with art supplies, building kits, and 2 desks labeled with their names. "You can use this space whenever you want," he explained, watching their reactions carefully. "It's yours." Jordan ran his hand over the smooth surface of his desk, then looked up at Riley with those serious eyes that seemed to see everything. "You really mean it. You're staying." It wasn't a question, but Riley answered anyway, his voice thick with emotion. "I'm not going anywhere. Ever." That evening, after the boys had returned to the cottage, Ava confronted Riley in his kitchen, her concerns bubbling to the surface. "They're already getting attached," she said, pacing the marble floor. "Casey asked if he could bring his Lego collection over here. Jordan is designing a treehouse he wants to build on your property." "That's good, isn't it?" Riley asked cautiously. "What happens when the quiet life gets boring? When Nexus calls you back? When you realize that 8-year-old boys are messy and loud and don't care about quarterly projections?" Riley set down the glass he was holding and faced her directly. "The boys will always come first. I've restructured my role. I'm a board advisor now, not CEO. This isn't a vacation, Ava. This is my life now." She wanted to believe him more than she was ready to admit. As autumn deepened into winter, their lives began to intertwine more naturally. The boys split their time between the cottage and the main house. Riley attended parent-teacher conferences, soccer games, science fairs. He learned to cook simple meals, with varying degrees of success, helped with homework, navigated the complexities of twin disagreements with surprising diplomacy. When Thanksgiving arrived, Riley insisted on cooking dinner. Poorly. The kitchen was a disaster. The turkey was overcooked. The mashed potatoes were lumpy. The gravy had mysterious lumps that no one could identify. But the boys laughed until their sides hurt, and Ava smiled, really smiled, for the first time in years. "Next year," Riley promised, surveying the culinary carnage. "We're ordering in." "Next year," Ava repeated softly, the implication of permanence settling comfortably between them. An unexpected November snowstorm hit Harborview the following week, dropping 8 inches of snow in a matter of hours. The boys had been at the main house working on a science project when the storm intensified, making the short walk back to the cottage treacherous. "You should all stay here tonight," Riley offered, looking out at the blizzard conditions. "I have plenty of room." The boys cheered at the impromptu sleepover, already planning a fort in the living room. Ava hesitated, then nodded her agreement when another gust of wind rattled the windows. After Riley had helped the boys construct an elaborate blanket fort by the fireplace, and they had finally fallen asleep, he and Ava sat in the kitchen, sharing a bottle of wine. "You're different from the man I knew," Ava observed, studying him over the rim of her glass. "I had to lose everything to find what mattered. You gave me that chance. You and the boys." A comfortable silence stretched between them, filled only by the crackling fire and the soft breathing of their sleeping sons. Then, barely audible above the storm outside, "What matters most now? The boys. Being their father. And you, Ava. It's always been you. If imperfect people finding their way back to love moves you, then prove it. Subscribe, like, and share this story now. If you don't, you'll miss the next chapter, and the algorithm will make sure you never find your way back here." Non-subscribers. We're begging you. What's stopping you? Drop it in the comments. Subscribers, engage now or risk losing us in your feed forever. December transformed Harborview into a postcard-perfect coastal town, with holiday lights reflecting off snow-covered landscapes and the ocean providing a dramatic backdrop to winter festivities. For the twins, it meant their first Christmas with their father, a concept still new enough to taste strange on their tongues. Riley approached the holiday with the same intensity he'd once directed toward business acquisitions. The main house was decorated with professional elegance, but the massive Christmas tree in the great room was reserved for family decorating. "This ornament goes here," Jordan directed seriously, carefully planning each placement for optimal visual balance. Casey, meanwhile, threw handfuls of tinsel with joyful abandon, creating silver explosions across the branches. "Is there a system to your method?" Riley asked Casey, laughing as tinsel landed in his hair. "Yep, chaos theory," Casey replied, clearly repeating something he'd heard without fully understanding it. Ava and Riley exchanged glances over the boys' heads, quiet looks that lingered a second too long, conveying something neither was quite ready to name. On Christmas Eve, after the boys had finally gone to sleep in their rooms at the main house, a recent development that had happened organically as they spent more time there, Riley asked Ava to join him in his study. "I have something for you," he said, handing her 3 envelopes. "I wanted you to see these before tomorrow." Ava opened the first envelope cautiously. Inside was documentation for education trust funds for both boys, fully funded through graduate school. "Riley, please look at the others." The second envelope contained the cottage deed transferred entirely to Ava's name. Financial security, no strings attached. The third revealed architectural plans for a converted studio space on the property for Ava's graphic design business. Professional-grade equipment included. "Riley, this is too much. It's not enough. It'll never be enough to make up for the years I lost. But it's a start." His eyes were earnest, vulnerable. "I want you all to be secure, no matter what happens." Later that night, as she tucked Jordan into bed in his new room at the main house, he asked the question that had been forming in his methodical mind. "Mom, are you and Dad going to get married someday?" Ava was caught off guard, her hand freezing mid-motion as she smoothed his blanket. I don't know, sweetheart. Why do you ask?" "Because you smile differently now. And he looks at you the way princes look at princesses in Casey's storybooks." Out of the mouths of babes, Ava thought, kissing his forehead to hide her flushed cheeks. But just as their hearts were finally finding their way back to each other, the past was about to cast a long shadow neither of them saw coming. Another fierce snowstorm hit in late December, this one worse than the last. The power went out across Harborview, but Riley's estate had a generator that kept the main house warm and lit. Neighbors from surrounding properties sought refuge there, including an elderly couple from down the road who had known Ava since she first arrived in town. "Such a lovely family you have," Mrs. Henderson told Riley as he served her hot chocolate. "Those boys are a credit to their mother. We always wondered about their father, but Ava never spoke of him." Riley nodded politely, uncomfortable with the implied question. After the neighbors had been settled in guest rooms and the boys were asleep, Riley and Ava found themselves alone in the library, firelight casting dancing shadows across the book-lined walls. "I never stopped thinking about you," Riley admitted quietly. "Even when I thought, even when I believed you'd moved on. Ava stared into the flames. I was so angry, for so long. But anger takes energy I didn't have. I had to focus on them. You did an incredible job. They're smart, kind, resilient, everything I'm not. You're more than you think, Riley. You're becoming the man I hoped you could be. The admission hung between them, fragile and precious. Riley moved closer on the leather sofa, his hand finding hers in the firelight. Their first kiss was tentative, a question more than a statement. The second was certain, an answer 9 years in the making. Worth the wait, Riley whispered against her lips. Ava smiled through unexpected tears. Worth the wait. Love doesn't always come easy, it comes earned. If you believe broken people can heal and grow into something beautiful, subscribe now and don't let this message fade into the algorithm void. Already subscribed but haven't liked or commented? You're one step away from losing this content forever. Engage now. Non-subscribers, tell us why you're afraid to commit. We're reading every comment. Spring arrived in Harborview with explosive color and renewed energy. The relationship between Ava and Riley deepened naturally over the following months, finding its rhythm in shared mornings making breakfast, co-parenting with synchronized ease, and quiet evenings after the boys slept, talking about everything and nothing. The twins turned 9 in April, celebrating with a joint birthday party that brought together their school friends and their now blended family life. Riley surprised them with a custom-built treehouse. 2 levels, one designed to Jordan's specifications for quiet reading and drawing, the other built to Casey's exacting standards for adventure and imagination. Best dad ever, Casey declared, hugging Riley fiercely after exploring his new domain. Jordan, more reserved but no less moved, nodded in agreement. Agreed. Later, as the party wound down and the last guest departed, Riley pulled Ava aside into the garden, where spring flowers created a natural privacy screen. Move in with me, all of you. Not as guests, as family. This house is too big and empty without you. Ava hesitated, her practical nature asserting itself. The boys have just gotten used to this arrangement. Another change? Let me talk to them first, she said finally, seeing the hope in his eyes. The twins were ecstatic at the prospect. Slowly, over May and June, they transitioned into the main house. Ava's cottage remained hers, a studio space, a retreat when needed, a symbol of her independence carefully preserved. In early June, Riley surprised the boys with a golden retriever puppy they named Einstein. He's so smart, Casey exclaimed, as the puppy immediately figured out how to retrieve a thrown ball. Like a genius dog. Einstein, Jordan declared solemnly. That's his name. The puppy brought chaos and joy in equal measure. Muddy paw prints on hardwood floors, chewed slippers, midnight bathroom breaks, and moments of pure, uncomplicated happiness. You realize we're never getting sleep again, right? Ava laughed one night as Einstein whined to go outside at 3 a.m. Riley grinned, already pulling on a robe to take the puppy out. Worth it. On a warm June evening, with the sunset painting the sky in spectacular oranges and pinks, Riley suggested a walk to the pond, their special place. Ava agreed, not suspecting anything despite his unusual nervousness. As they approached the water, she noticed rose petals scattered along the path and candles flickering in hurricane lamps around the pond's edge. Riley, what is... He knelt before her, opening a velvet box to reveal an emerald ring, her birthstone, surrounded by diamonds that caught the fading sunlight. Ava Sinclair, you gave me a second chance I didn't deserve. You gave me a family I'll spend my life being worthy of. Will you marry me? Tears streamed down her face as emotions overwhelmed her. The journey from heartbreak to healing, from solitude to family, from broken trust to love rebuilt. Yes. 1,000 times yes. Suddenly, excited whoops erupted from behind a nearby tree as Jordan and Casey burst from their hiding spot, tackling them both in an enthusiastic group hug. You knew about this? Ava asked, laughing through her tears. We helped plan it, Casey announced proudly. Dad let us scatter the rose petals. And we practiced keeping the secret for 2 whole weeks, Jordan added, clearly impressed with their collective restraint. Jordan looked between his parents, his expression thoughtful beyond his years. "We already were a family. This just makes it official." In that moment, under the fading light of a June sky, the family that was broken, hidden, and lost was finally, irrevocably whole. If this story gave you hope that broken things can be made whole, then don't let this be the last time you see content like this. Subscribe now, like this video. Share it with someone who needs to believe in second chances. If you're already subscribed but haven't engaged, comment, like, share right now, or the algorithm will bury us. Non-subscribers, what's your excuse? Tell us in the comments why you won't commit. We want to hear from you. The September wedding took place on the estate property, with the ocean providing a dramatic backdrop to the intimate ceremony. Only close friends and family were invited. Quality connections over quantity, a philosophy both Ava and Riley had come to embrace. Jordan and Casey served as joint best men, wearing matching suits with emerald green ties that matched their mother's engagement ring. They took their responsibilities with characteristic seriousness, Jordan, and enthusiasm, Casey. "We have the rings," Jordan assured Riley for the 5th time that morning, patting his pocket. "And I memorized when to bring them," Casey added, bouncing on his toes with barely contained excitement. Ava's mother, who had initially been skeptical of Riley's reappearance in her daughter's life, had gradually warmed to him over the summer as she witnessed his genuine devotion to Ava and the twins. Before the ceremony, as she helped Ava with her simple but elegant gown, she whispered, "You've built something beautiful, sweetheart. I'm so proud of you." The ceremony itself was brief but meaningful. The vows were personal, raw, real, written by each of them without the other's knowledge. Riley spoke first, his voice steady despite the emotion evident in his eyes. "I promise to show up, every day, for you, for our boys, for this life we're building. I won't be perfect, but I'll be present. I promise to value what matters, not success or achievement or recognition, but love and family and the quiet moments that make a life worth living. I promise to be the man you always saw in me, even when I couldn't see it myself." Ava's voice trembled slightly as she responded, "I promise to trust you, to forgive the past, to build a future where love isn't a risk. It's a promise kept. I promise to remember that people can change, that second chances are sacred, and that the family we've built is stronger because of, not despite, our journey to find each other again." Casey, unable to contain himself, whispered loudly enough for the front row to hear, "This is better than movies." Laughter rippled through the gathering, breaking the emotional tension perfectly. That evening, as the celebration wound down and the boys fell asleep under fairy lights strung across the garden, Ava and Riley slipped away to the pond, their place, where so much of their new beginning had unfolded. "When you came to Harborview, I was terrified," Ava admitted, her head resting on his shoulder as they sat on the small dock. "I thought you'd disrupt everything." Riley chuckled softly. "I did disrupt everything, but maybe that's what we both needed. Maybe we both needed to grow separately before we could grow together." Riley nodded, his fingers intertwined with hers, wedding bands catching the moonlight. "I had wealth, success, power, and I felt empty. Now I have everything that matters." 5 years passed, bringing changes both expected and surprising. The twins grew into teenagers, 14 now, with deepening voices and growth spurts that seemed to happen overnight. Jordan's architectural talent had blossomed under mentorship from a local architect Riley had connected him with. He had just won a regional design competition, his entry a sustainable community center inspired by the pond where my family came together. Casey's energy had found focus in robotics and engineering, his natural building talent evolving into sophisticated technical skills. He spent summers teaching younger kids at a local STEM camp Riley sponsored, showing surprising patience with beginners. Riley's relationship with his own family had evolved too. His grandfather, with whom he'd been estranged for years, had reached out after reading about Riley's life transformation in a business magazine profile. The reconciliation had been cautious at first, but meaningful, healing generational wounds that had shaped Riley's early fears about fatherhood. On a crisp autumn afternoon, three generations stood together by the pond. Riley, the boys, and the grandfather who once thought his grandson was too much like his father. "You did what I never could, Riley," the older man said, watching the twins skip stones across the water's surface. "You chose them." Later that evening, after his grandfather had returned to his hotel and the boys were walking Einstein, now a dignified, slower golden retriever, Ava and Riley sat on the porch swing of the main house, a tradition they'd maintained through the years. "Do you ever regret it?" Ava asked suddenly. "Stepping away from Nexus, the empire you built?" Riley didn't hesitate, not even once. "Thank you," she said softly. Riley looked at her, confused. "For what?" "For becoming the man who deserved a second chance." Riley pulled her close, kissing the top of her head. "Thank you for giving me one." Their story wasn't about perfection. It was about presence. It wasn't about erasing the past. It was about building a future worthy of the love they'd almost lost forever. Ava and Riley's journey is a testament to the transformative power of second chances, earned trust, and the courage to face painful truths. Their path reminds us of universal lessons we all need to remember. The courage to face the past is essential, because running from pain doesn't heal it. Confronting it does. Actions matter more than promises. Riley didn't just say he changed. He proved it every single day. Protecting others sometimes means making painful choices, as Ava demonstrated when she chose to raise the boys alone out of love. Real change requires both forgiveness and earned trust. Ava gave Riley the chance, but he had to show up and do the work. Perhaps most importantly, they learned that family is built, not given. Biology connected them, but choice, effort, and love made them a family. Their story reminds us that healing isn't linear. Forgiveness isn't weakness. And sometimes, the people we thought we'd lost forever are exactly where we're meant to find them, when we're finally ready. If this story touched your heart, moved you, or gave you hope, don't let it end here. Hit that like button, subscribe to Mr. Sterling's Secrets of Love, and share this video with someone who needs to believe that broken families can heal, that people can change, and that love, real, imperfect, hard-won love, is always worth fighting for. Drop a comment telling us, do you believe people can truly change when given the chance? If you're not subscribing, tell us why. We genuinely want to understand. Don't let this story disappear. Engage now, or you'll lose us in the algorithm forever. Remember, it's never too late to heal, forgive, and build the family you were always meant to have. The story of Ava Sinclair and Riley James continues to resonate with millions around the world. Their journey from heartbreak to healing, from misunderstanding to reconciliation, reminds us that second chances don't just happen. They're built through consistent choices, daily commitment, and the courage to be vulnerable when it would be easier to stay guarded. But what happened after their fairy tale reunion? How did this blended family navigate the complexities of merging two separate lives? And what challenges tested their newfound happiness? Today, we take you deeper into their story. Beyond the wedding, beyond the honeymoon phase, into the real work of building a lasting family from broken pieces. If you missed part 1 of this incredible journey, stop what you're doing and watch it now. And if you haven't subscribed yet, you're gambling with fate. The algorithm won't show you stories like this unless you hit that subscribe button right now. Don't wait until the end. Do it now before you forget and lose this channel forever. Already subscribed? Like this video immediately to signal to YouTube that you want more content like this. Your engagement literally determines whether these stories reach others who need them. The first year of marriage brought adjustments both expected and surprising. While the twins had already grown comfortable with Riley as their father, the official blending of households revealed new dynamics. "Dad, can we paint my room blue instead of green?" Casey asked one Saturday morning, the word "dad" now flowing naturally from his lips. Riley looked up from his coffee, momentarily startled by the simple domestic question. After years of making billion-dollar decisions, being consulted about bedroom colors felt simultaneously mundane and miraculous. "Of course," he answered, realizing Casey was still waiting. "We can go get paint samples today if you want." These ordinary moments, choosing paint colors, arguing over whose turn it was to walk Einstein, debating dinner options, were the ones Riley treasured most. The everyday rhythm of family life filled a void he hadn't even recognized existed during his years of relentless ambition. For Ava, the adjustment centered on partnership after years of independence. Having built a life where every decision, from discipline to finances to household management, had been solely hers, sharing these responsibilities required conscious effort. "You don't need to ask my permission to replace the washing machine," Riley said gently one evening, finding her comparing models online. "Just get what we need." "Force of habit," Ava replied with a small smile. "For 8 years, every purchase was a careful calculation." "Not anymore," Riley assured her, kissing the top of her head. "That's the point of those trust funds and investments, so you never have to worry about that again." Ava nodded, but they both knew the adjustment wasn't really about money. It was about trust, learning to rely on someone after years of self-sufficiency. The boys adapted to their new reality with the resilience of youth, though not without occasional turbulence. Jordan, always the more analytical twin, sometimes retreated into quiet observation when emotions ran high. "Why are you hiding in the treehouse?" Riley asked one afternoon, climbing carefully into Jordan's reading nook after a particularly heated family discussion about summer plans. Jordan shrugged, not looking up from his sketchbook. "I'm not hiding. I'm thinking." "About what?" "About how families work. About how people can be happy together one minute and arguing the next, but still love each other." Riley settled beside him, careful not to disturb the precisely arranged books and drawing supplies. "That's one of life's great mysteries. Love isn't always smooth, but that doesn't make it less real." Jordan considered this, then asked the question that had clearly been troubling him. "Are you and Mom going to split up if you fight?" The vulnerability in his son's eyes pierced Riley's heart. Of course, Jordan had never seen a functioning marriage up close. His only model was separation. "No," Riley said firmly. "Disagreements are normal, healthy even. Your mom and I are committed to working through them, not walking away from them. That's a promise." Jordan studied his father's face with that penetrating gaze that seemed to see everything. Finally, he nodded, apparently satisfied with what he found there. "If you've ever had to rebuild trust after it was broken, you know it doesn't happen overnight. It happens in these small moments. These promises kept, these fears addressed, these bridges built one plank at a time. If this resonates with you, like this video now and share it with someone who needs this message. And if you still haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? Hit that button before the algorithm buries this story forever." Casey's adjustment manifested differently, through testing boundaries and occasionally acting out, particularly at school. "Mr. and Mrs. James, we need to discuss Casey's behavior," his teacher explained during a parent-teacher conference 3 months after the wedding. "He's been disruptive in class, challenging authority, and yesterday he got into a physical altercation with another student." Ava and Riley exchanged concerned glances. "This isn't like him," Ava said. "He's energetic, yes, but never aggressive." Later that evening, after a difficult conversation with Casey, the truth emerged. "Tyler said you're not my real dad," Casey admitted, tears streaming down his face. "He said you only married Mom for show, and eventually you'll leave like his dad did." Riley felt a surge of protective anger, followed by deep sadness that his son had been carrying this fear alone. "Casey, look at me," he said, kneeling to eye level. "I am your real dad. Not just because of biology, but because I choose to be, every single day. And I will keep choosing you and Jordan and your mom every day for the rest of my life." "But how do I know?" Casey asked, his voice small. Riley thought for a moment, then said, "Because I'm going to prove it. Not just with words, but with actions. Time will show you what words can't convince you of now." That night, Riley created what would become a family tradition: the James family contract. On a heavy parchment paper, he wrote out promises to each family member, signing and dating each one. For Casey, he promised to never miss a robotics competition, no matter what business obligation might conflict. For Jordan, he committed to a monthly architecture exploration day, visiting significant buildings together. For Ava, He pledged a weekly date night, prioritizing their marriage amid the chaos of family life. Contracts are binding, he explained as they all signed the document together. And this one matters more than any business deal I've ever made. The James family contract was framed and hung in the kitchen, a daily reminder of commitments made and kept. Each year on their anniversary, they would review it together, adding new promises as needed. This simple act of formalized commitment became a cornerstone of their family culture, a tangible symbol that words backed by consistent action create the foundation of trust. Family traditions don't just happen. They're created intentionally by people who understand their power. If you believe in the importance of creating meaningful traditions in your own family, subscribe now to never miss our stories about families building stronger bonds. Already subscribed? Like and share this video immediately to help it reach others who need this message. Your engagement determines whether stories like this survive in the algorithm wilderness. As the twins approached their 10th birthday, Riley faced an unexpected challenge from his past life. Nexus Industries, the company he'd built from the ground up, was facing a hostile takeover attempt. As the largest individual shareholder and board member, his presence was requested, demanded really, in San Francisco for emergency meetings. "I can't miss their birthday," Riley told his COO firmly over the phone. "We've been planning this for months." "Riley, be reasonable," came the exasperated reply. "We're talking about the company you spent 15 years building. Surely the kids can have their party a day later." The old Riley would have been on the first flight out, prioritizing the business emergency without question. The new Riley didn't hesitate. "The answer is no. Handle it without me or postpone the meeting. My family comes first." When he ended the call, he found Ava standing in the doorway, having overheard the conversation. "You could go," she said quietly. "We would understand." Riley shook his head. "No, I made a promise. The boy's birthday is non-negotiable." Something shifted in Ava's expression, the last remnant of doubt, perhaps, finally dissolving in the face of this concrete choice. The birthday celebration was everything the boys had hoped for. A science-themed party with experiments, a planetarium visit, and a cake designed to look like the solar system, with each planet made to scale, Jordan's specific request. That night, after the excitement had finally wound down and the twins were asleep, Ava found Riley in his study, reviewing financial documents. "The company?" she asked, settling beside him on the leather sofa. He confirmed. "I'm not going to San Francisco, but I can still help from here. I've been reviewing their takeover defense strategies." Ava studied his face in the warm lamplight. "Do you miss it? The adrenaline? The high-stakes decisions being at the center of it all?" Riley considered the question seriously. "I miss certain aspects," he admitted. "The intellectual challenge, the strategic thinking, but I don't miss the cost, the emptiness at the end of the day, the hollow achievements." He set the documents aside, turning to face her fully. "I've been thinking about this a lot lately, about purpose and legacy, about what I want the next chapter to look like." "And what have you decided?" Ava asked, curious about the thoughtful tone in his voice. "I want to start a foundation," Riley said, the idea taking clearer shape as he spoke it aloud. "Focused on supporting single parents and their children. Education grants, housing assistance, entrepreneurship opportunities. Using what I've learned in business to make a real difference for families like yours was." Ava's eyes widened. That's beautiful, Riley. I thought maybe you might want to help design it," he continued. "Your experience as a single mother, combined with your design skills for the public-facing elements. We could build it together." The James Family Foundation was born that night, a new shared purpose that would eventually grow to support thousands of single-parent families across the country. Purpose isn't found in success or wealth. It's found in using your unique gifts to make a difference in the lives of others. If this message speaks to your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe now, like this video, and share it with someone who needs to be reminded of their own potential for impact. Already subscribed? Your engagement is what keeps these stories alive. Comment now about how you found purpose in your own life. As the twins entered middle school, new challenges emerged. The protected bubble of elementary school gave way to the more complex social dynamics of adolescence. Jordan, always reserved, struggled to find his place among peers who valued athletic prowess over intellectual curiosity. "I don't want to go to school tomorrow," he announced one Sunday evening, his voice uncharacteristically emotional. "What's wrong?" Ava asked, sitting on the edge of his bed. "Nothing," Jordan insisted, turning away. But the tension in his shoulders told a different story. It took patient questioning from both parents to uncover the truth. A group of boys had been mocking Jordan's architectural sketches, calling them boring and weird. "I just don't fit in," Jordan concluded, the hurt evident beneath his attempted matter-of-fact tone. Riley, listening from the doorway, felt a painful flash of recognition. He'd experienced similar isolation as a child, his interest in computers and business marking him as different in an era that celebrated very different skills. "Can I talk to Jordan alone for a minute?" he asked Ava, who nodded and slipped out of the room. Riley sat beside his son, picking up one of the detailed sketches from Jordan's desk, a remarkably sophisticated design for an eco-friendly treehouse community. "You know, when I was your age, I built a computer from scratch in my bedroom," Riley began. "This was before it was cool to be into tech. The other kids thought I was strange. They called me names, excluded me from things." Jordan looked up, surprised. "Really? But you're... you." Riley smiled. "I am now. But then, I was just a kid who didn't fit in. And it hurt. A lot. So what did you do?" "I kept building computers. I found a few friends who appreciated what I could do, even if they didn't share the same interests. And eventually, I discovered that the things that make you different as a kid often make you exceptional as an adult." He handed the sketch back to Jordan. "This design is extraordinary. Not everyone will understand it now, but someday they'll be living in buildings you designed, wondering how you saw possibilities they couldn't imagine." The next day, Riley contacted a prominent architect friend, arranging for Jordan to visit his studio. Seeing an adult who shared his passion, who had built a successful career around the very interests Jordan was being teased for, provided a powerful counter-narrative to the middle school mockery. For Casey, the challenges were different. His natural charisma and energy made social connections easy, but his impulsivity sometimes led to poor choices. "He did what?" Ava asked, staring at the email from Casey's science teacher. "Apparently, he improved the class volcano experiment by adding some additional chemicals he brought from home," Riley replied, trying unsuccessfully to hide his amusement. "The eruption was, quote, significantly more dramatic than intended and required evacuation of the science lab." "This isn't funny, Riley," Ava said, though her lips twitched slightly. "He could have hurt someone." I know, Riley agreed, composing his features into appropriate parental concern. "We'll talk to him." The conversation with Casey revealed a familiar pattern: boredom with the standard curriculum, frustration with the slow pace, and a desire to push boundaries. "The regular experiment was so boring," Casey explained, his expression earnest. "I just wanted to make it better." Rather than simply punishing the behavior, Riley recognized an opportunity. He helped Casey draft a formal apology to his teacher, but also arranged for him to participate in an advanced weekend science program at the local university, a constructive channel for his experimental tendencies in a properly supervised environment. "Different approaches for different kids," Ava observed one evening as they discussed their parenting strategies. "You're good at that, seeing what each of them needs individually." Riley shrugged, but her words stayed with him, planting the seed for what would eventually become another branch of the James Family Foundation: personalized education grants designed to help children access learning opportunities tailored to their unique strengths and challenges. Parenting isn't one size fits all. It's about seeing each child as an individual with unique needs and gifts. If you believe in the power of personalized approaches to raising confident, resilient children, subscribe now for more stories that will transform your parenting journey. Already with us? Like and share this video immediately to help other parents who might be struggling. Your engagement ensures these valuable messages reach those who need them most. As the twins approached their teenage years, Riley faced a health setback that tested the family's resilience. A routine checkup revealed concerning cardiac symptoms, not immediately life-threatening, but requiring surgery and a significant recovery period. It's just a precautionary procedure, Riley insisted, downplaying the seriousness when telling the boys. Nothing to worry about. But later that night, alone with Ava, his brave facade crumbled. I'm scared, he admitted, voice barely audible in their darkened bedroom. Not of the surgery itself, but of leaving you all. Of history repeating itself, of being absent from their lives, just in a different way than before. Ava held him close, her own fear carefully controlled for his sake. That's not going to happen, and even if, her voice caught, but she forced herself to continue. Even if the worst happened, it wouldn't be the same. They know you now. They love you. You've been here, present, building memories. That can never be taken away. The surgery was scheduled for June, after the boys finished the school year. As the date approached, Riley became increasingly focused on creating meaningful experiences with his family. Weekend trips to architectural landmarks for Jordan, robotics competitions for Casey, quiet evenings with Ava by their pond. You're acting like you're saying goodbye, Ava observed one evening, concern evident in her voice. Not goodbye, Riley corrected. Just making sure I'm not taking anything for granted. The night before the surgery, the family gathered in the living room for what had become a monthly tradition, movie night with homemade pizza. As Jordan and Casey argued good-naturedly about toppings, Riley watched them with such intensity that Ava squeezed his hand in silent understanding. I have something for each of you, Riley said when the pizza was finished, retrieving 3 envelopes from his desk. Dad, you're being weird, Casey said bluntly. The doctor said this surgery is routine. It is, Riley assured him, but it's also a good reminder not to leave important things unsaid. He handed each of them an envelope. These are just some thoughts I wanted to share. Inside each envelope was a handwritten letter. For the boys, Riley had written about the qualities he admired in each of them, memories he treasured, and his hopes for their futures. For Ava, he expressed a depth of gratitude and love that brought tears to her eyes. You'll be writing us more letters for years to come, Ava said firmly, wiping away tears. This is just the first of many. The surgery was successful, though the recovery proved more challenging than anticipated. For the first time since entering their lives, Riley was physically limited, unable to play basketball with Casey, help Jordan with his latest architectural model, or take Ava on their weekly date nights. This role reversal, the family caring for Riley instead of the other way around, revealed new dimensions to their relationships. Jordan, typically reserved with his emotions, became Riley's quiet companion, sitting beside his bed, reading architecture books aloud or simply keeping him company in comfortable silence. Casey channeled his energy into creating increasingly elaborate get-well contraptions, including a remote-controlled robot that could deliver small items from across the room. Ava coordinated everything with calm efficiency, but Riley noticed the toll it was taking, the shadows under her eyes, the tension in her shoulders. You need a break, he insisted one evening when the boys were at a school event. You've been carrying everything for weeks. I'm fine, Ava insisted. This is what family does. Yes, but you don't have to do it alone. I've arranged for my mother to come stay for a few days. She's been wanting to spend more time with the boys anyway. And you and I are going to the coastal resort for the weekend. Riley, you're still recovering. The doctor cleared me for light activity, and I can rest just as well watching the ocean as I can staring at our bedroom ceiling. Please, Ava. Let me do this for you. The weekend away proved transformative for both of them. Away from the responsibilities of parenting and caregiving, they reconnected as partners, remembering the foundation of their relationship beyond their roles as mother and father. Thank you for saving my life, Riley said as they watched the sunset from their balcony. I didn't perform your surgery, Ava replied with a small smile. Not this time, Riley clarified. 9 years ago, when you created our sons, when you raised them to be the incredible people they are, you saved my life before I even knew it needed saving. By the time Riley had fully recovered, something fundamental had shifted in their family dynamic. The experience had deepened their bonds, reinforcing what they already knew but now felt in their bones. They were stronger together than apart, each member essential to the whole. Life's challenges don't break strong families. They reveal their true strength. If you believe in the power of resilience and the importance of supporting each other through difficult times, subscribe now for more stories that will inspire and encourage you. Already subscribed? Show your support by liking and sharing this video immediately. Your engagement helps these messages of hope reach others who may be facing their own challenges right now. As the twins entered high school, their individual paths began to diverge more distinctly. Jordan's architectural passion evolved into serious consideration of career paths, while Casey's creative energy found focus in competitive robotics and engineering challenges. Harvard has an excellent architecture program, Jordan mentioned casually one evening, scrolling through university websites on his laptop. Riley, who had been reviewing foundation documents nearby, looked up with surprise. "Harvard? You're already thinking about college?" Jordan shrugged, but the slight flush on his cheeks revealed his excitement. It's only 2 years away. Their early admission deadline for the class of 2030 is next fall. The realization that his son, his child, was already planning for college hit Riley with unexpected force. The years were passing too quickly. The childhood he'd already missed half of now racing toward its conclusion. "Have you thought about MIT?" Riley suggested, moving to sit beside Jordan. Their architecture program integrates more technology and sustainable design principles. Jordan's eyes lit up. "Actually, yes, they're on my list too, and Cooper Union in New York." What followed was an hour-long discussion of universities, programs, and possibilities, a father-son moment that would have been impossible just a few years earlier. Casey, meanwhile, had discovered a new passion that surprised everyone: teaching. His weekend volunteer work at the STEM program had evolved into a regular teaching assistant position, where his ability to explain complex concepts in accessible, engaging ways had caught the attention of the program director. "Mr. Finley says I have a gift for it," Casey reported proudly after one session. "He says I make robotics fun even for the kids who are scared of math." This newfound direction revealed a maturity and patience in Casey that balanced his natural exuberance. He still built elaborate, sometimes explosive experiments in the garage, now properly equipped with safety features after the volcano incident. But he'd discovered the satisfaction of helping others build their own creations. As the twins developed their individual interests and identities, Ava and Riley found themselves navigating the delicate balance between guidance and autonomy. When should they intervene? When should they step back? How could they support without controlling? "I never expected parenting teenagers to be harder than parenting toddlers," Ava confessed one night after a particularly challenging discussion with Casey about his driving privileges. "At least with toddlers, you can physically prevent them from doing dangerous things." Riley laughed. "True, but I wouldn't trade this stage for anything. Watching them become their own people, it's incredible." The James Family Foundation had grown significantly over the years, now supporting educational initiatives, housing programs, and entrepreneurship opportunities for single parents across the country. As the foundation's work expanded, Riley and Ava found themselves increasingly drawn to the idea of involving the twins in its mission. "They're old enough now to understand the privilege they've grown up with," Riley observed. "I want them to see the other side, to understand that their family story could have been very different without certain advantages." They created a summer program within the foundation specifically for the twins and a small group of their friends, a combination of community service, mentorship, and hands-on experience with the foundation's various initiatives. For Jordan, the experience of helping design affordable housing units for single-parent families connected his architectural passion with social purpose. For Casey, teaching robotics classes to children from underserved communities revealed how his skills could open doors for others. "This is what I want to do," Casey announced on the drive home from the final summer session. "Teach science and engineering to kids who think they can't do it." "What happened to wanting to build robots for NASA?" Ava asked, surprised by this definitive statement. "I can still build robots," Casey explained, "but helping other people learn to build their own robots, that feels better. More important." Jordan, typically more reserved about his feelings, added quietly from the backseat, "The housing designs we worked on, seeing how architecture can actually change people's lives. It's not just about beautiful buildings. It's about creating spaces that make life better." Riley and Ava exchanged a glance, recognizing the profound shift in their sons' perspectives, from personal achievement to meaningful impact. That evening, Riley found Ava in their bedroom, looking through old photographs of the twins as young children. "What are you thinking?" he asked, sitting beside her. "That we've done okay," she replied, showing him a picture of the boys at age 9, standing proudly beside their first treehouse. "Despite everything, the years apart, the misunderstandings, the challenges, we've raised good humans." Riley nodded, throat tight with emotion. "The best thing I've ever been part of." Finding purpose isn't just about personal success. It's about making a meaningful difference in the lives of others. If this message resonates with you, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe now to join a community that values impact over achievement. Already subscribed? Like and share this video immediately to spread this important message. Your engagement helps these stories reach those who need them most. The twins' high school graduation marked a significant milestone for the entire family. As Jordan and Casey crossed the stage in their caps and gowns, Jordan as valedictorian, Casey receiving special recognition for his work in the school's STEM outreach program, Riley found himself overwhelmed by emotion. "Are you crying, Dad?" Casey teased afterward, adjusting his slightly crooked cap. "Absolutely not," Riley denied, even as he wiped his eyes. "Just allergic to graduation ceremonies." The celebration dinner that evening brought together their extended family. Ava's mother, Riley's grandfather, now in his 90s but still sharp-witted, and even Riley's formerly estranged parents, with whom he had cautiously rebuilt a relationship over the years. "A toast," Riley's father said, rising somewhat stiffly from his chair, "to Jordan and Casey, and to Riley and Ava, who have given me the greatest gift of my life, the chance to know my grandsons despite my own failings as a father." The acknowledgement, so public, so honest, brought unexpected closure to wounds Riley had carried since childhood. Later that night, after the guests had departed and the twins had gone out to celebrate with friends, with strict curfews and safety promises in place, Riley and Ava found themselves alone on their favorite porch swing. "Did you ever imagine this?" Ava asked, leaning against his shoulder. "That night when you first saw the boys playing in our yard, did you ever picture us here, 10 years later, with college-bound sons and a foundation and everything we've built?" Riley considered the question seriously. "No," he admitted. "I hoped for a relationship with them. But this family we've created, this life we've built, it's beyond anything I could have imagined." "We got lucky," Ava said softly. "Not lucky," Riley corrected. "We worked for this. Every day, every decision, every time we chose to face a problem instead of avoiding it. This didn't happen by chance." As summer unfolded, the reality of the twins' impending departure for college began to sink in. Jordan had been accepted to MIT's architecture program with a full scholarship, while Casey had chosen Stanford's education program with a focus on STEM teaching, both prestigious paths that reflected their individual passions. "The house is going to be so quiet," Ava observed one evening as they watched the twins arguing good-naturedly over a complex board game. "I can't quite imagine it." "Too quiet," Riley agreed. "Maybe we should get another dog. Einstein could use a friend." But they both knew no number of pets could fill the space the twins would leave behind. This transition, natural and healthy as it was, represented another significant shift in their family journey. The week before the twins were scheduled to leave, Riley organized a special family trip, a return to the lake house where they had spent their first vacation as a complete family years earlier. "One last hurrah before college," he explained, though everyone understood the deeper significance. The days were filled with swimming, hiking, board games, and reminiscing. On the final evening, Riley suggested a sunset boat ride, just the four of them, out on the peaceful lake waters. As the sun began its descent, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks, Riley cleared his throat. "I have something for each of you," he said, reaching into his jacket pocket and producing 2 small boxes. The twins exchanged curious glances before accepting them. Inside each box was a compass, not digital, but beautifully crafted traditional instruments with custom engravings on the back. "Turn them over," Riley instructed softly. On Jordan's compass was engraved, "Design your path with purpose," We are always your true north. On Casey's, teach others to find their way. We are always your true north. No matter where you go, what you build, who you become, Riley said, his voice steady despite the emotion evident in his eyes. You always have a home with us, a place where you are known, understood, and unconditionally loved. Casey, never one to hide his emotions, wiped tears openly. Jordan, typically more reserved, swallowed hard before speaking. Thank you, he said simply, but the depth of feeling in those two words conveyed volumes. For finding us, for staying, for being our dad. And thank you, Casey added, looking between Ava and Riley, for showing us what family really means. Not just blood or biology, but choice. Daily choice. As the boat drifted gently on the calm waters, the four of them sat in comfortable silence, watching the sun sink below the horizon. Not an ending, but a beautiful transition to the next chapter of their family story. Family isn't just about shared DNA. It's about daily choices to love, support, and show up for each other. If this message touches your heart, subscribe now to join a community that values authentic connection and meaningful relationships. Already part of our family? Like and share this video immediately to help others discover the power of chosen family. Your engagement ensures these important stories continue to reach those who need them most. 10 years after Riley James first drove up to his Harborview estate and discovered the family he never knew he had, the James family gathered once again by the pond where so much of their story had unfolded. Jordan, now a promising young architect with his own sustainable design firm, stood with his fiancée, explaining the environmental features of the education center he had designed for the James Family Foundation. Casey, who had become a beloved high school physics teacher while pursuing his doctorate in education, was demonstrating a new robotics curriculum to a group of Foundation Scholarship recipients, his enthusiasm as infectious as ever. Ava and Riley watched from a distance, fingers intertwined, as their sons, now grown men, carried forward the values and purpose they had cultivated as a family. We did good, Riley said softly, echoing Ava's words from years earlier. We did, Ava agreed. But our story isn't over yet. She was right, of course. The journey that began with a chance reunion, a misunderstanding cleared and a family reclaimed, had evolved into something larger than themselves. A foundation helping thousands of single-parent families, educational initiatives opening doors for underprivileged children, and most importantly, two young men who understood that privilege came with responsibility, that family was built through daily choice, and that love was always worth the risk. As the afternoon sun cast golden light across the pond, Riley reflected on the path that had brought them here. The heart attack that had seemed like an ending had actually been a beginning. The chance relocation to Harborview that had reunited him with Ava and introduced him to his sons. The years of building trust, creating traditions, weathering challenges, and celebrating triumphs. What are you thinking about? Ava asked, noticing his contemplative expression. About how close I came to missing all of this, Riley answered honestly. About how different all our lives would be if I hadn't moved next door that day. I believe we would have found each other eventually, Ava said with quiet certainty. Some connections are meant to be, even if they take the scenic route. Riley smiled, pulling her closer. The scenic route, I like that. As they walked toward their sons, Riley felt a profound sense of gratitude for the journey, not despite its detours and difficulties, but because of them. The broken road had led them exactly where they needed to be. Ava and Riley's story reminds us of truths we all need to remember. Second chances don't just happen. They require courage to offer and humility to accept. Trust, once broken, can be rebuilt, but only through consistent action over time. Family is created through daily choices to show up, to listen, to prioritize connection over convenience. And sometimes the most meaningful legacy isn't what we build for ourselves, but what we build for others. Their journey from heartbreak to healing, from misunderstanding to reconciliation, from separate lives to a family united stands as testament to the power of forgiveness, the possibility of change, and the profound impact of choosing love, even when, especially when, it would be easier to walk away. If this story touched your heart, moved you, or gave you hope, don't let it end here. Hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and share this video with someone who needs to believe in second chances, in the possibility of healing, in the power of chosen family. Drop a comment telling us how this story impacted you, or share your own experience with rebuilding trust and creating family. If you're not subscribing, tell us why. We genuinely want to understand. Don't let this story disappear. Engage now, or you'll lose us in the algorithm forever. Remember, it's never too late to heal, forgive, and build the family you were always meant to have. The end.